this is nothing short of it, is getting everybody together to believe in a cause, which is, in our case, food security. He made miracles happen in Isle Cross with the fish plant, and this is just one of those ventures. You just keep going. We have the market gardens now, and we're venturing into wild rice now, so we're pretty excited to see the industry revitalized, because when I remember when I was younger, wild rice was just one of those really viable careers you would even get into. So we want to see that happen again, and we're trying to make every opportunity in this region. It was kind of a wake-up call in 2018, as you all know, with the mass layoffs in the mines. We said then and there we'll never be dependent on limited resources like that again. And we have a beautiful backyard here. You guys did a tour up the Beaver River. You've seen the capability of tourism in our region. That's another card Nat pulled out of his sleeve with the Westside Indigenous tourism experiences. And like I said, as a leader in our community, in our region, I am just excited to be part of that process, and I'm just here to set the foundation and make sure that we all have what we need. And if we don't have it, then we're out pulling government officials from, what are they called now, Prairie Can, everybody together to make sure that these dreams can be realized. And this is definitely one of those building blocks that's part of that process. And we'll see where it goes from here. It can only go up, right? And that's it. And welcome to the community. And let's hope we have a good, productive day of discussions as well.
By the way, if we come up with an idea for a flat bottom boat, I think you folks are saying, like, if we need one to be certain length, if we come up with the right plan, there's an easy way to make it shorter, right? So we could have one kind of common concept for flat bottom boat, 2 different lengths. We could come up with some kind of a common engine platform that is a totally different engine. And the problem that I see with the Rotax stuff is it's made for the recreational market. So what I was trying to say is, like, there's industrial engine designs that are meant for a common footprint, a common shaft size, and if you bought an engine of it could be a 4-stroke diesel, it could be a 4-stroke gas, in years to come, if you needed a different engine, it would have a fairly common mounting plate, right? So you wouldn't be bound to having a 580 Rotax, which the fact that these things have run so long and you can still buy an engine block is amazing. Yeah. But they charge the heck out of you at $3,000 for that. So I don't know what we should actually think of for an engine. In my mind, it's probably a little bit different, but in lots of farmyards and lots of acreages, you see 0-turn mowers, and they have a small compact engine on them, and they have a fair bit of power to do what they need to do. And when I compare that to what a 580 Rotax is meant to do in a 1980 Formula MXZ or whatever it was, I think there's a possibility that we could look at some different kind of a 4-stroke engine, maybe gas, maybe a diesel. But the more I think about the price of gas and how quickly a Rotax or even a 4-stroke Honda engine would go through a gallon of gas, maybe for a while and for the environment, we could look at powering it with like a smaller horsepower diesel. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and I don't want to make you guys think about a farm tractor diesel because they're the size of a milk crate, or they're maybe they're that tall and this wide. But maybe we don't know what we should come up with, is what I'm saying. But I would really like to come up with a way to power these things that would go for a longer period of time on a gallon of fuel, whatever kind of fuel it would be. You have to throw it in the garbage.
See, that's why there's so much engine problems. When you have a good crop, you don't feel like, when you see wild rice, dollar signs all over the place, you're hoping to God everything would work out. But some of these engines, like 503s, you can melt those in no time.
So I want to look at these things and try to figure out. There's lots of different companies that sell engines for various things, and when I was kind of pricing prop drives out and what other kind of things we could come up with, for probably $2,500, you can come up with a really compact diesel engine, and they would actually have an alternator on it, right? So you could run a small battery, which allows us to do a bunch of other things, right? Or they come with a little wee. I got a bunch donated, and I was looking at those, and in this project, and my mind's running wild. It's like I just want to grab Emil's boat and throw a different motor in it and play with it somewhere. But they even have like a little hydraulic motor, little hydraulic pump, which you could run at 30 psi. That would do something for you guys in the boat. I don't know what we could harness it for, but there's options that we could have if we go with a different style boat versus the Wreck and Leisure stuff. We're taking a Wreck and Leisure engine and we're putting it in a workhorse, right? And we wreck the engines because they're not made to do that. And the Subarus are really cool because they make a lot of power and they're available. And then when they fail, it's like, I don't know what a new Subaru would be worth to replace.
Well,
You know, and
I had to get out of them because on account of that.
yeah,
They're
Can you-
too expensive.
yeah.
Can you reboard them?
It's like rebuilding an aircraft engine. You have to take the cases apart. They have to make them flat again. They have to rebore them this way. They got to rebore them sideways. And so by that time, you've taken up so much money and time that it's. And machining engines now, like I have a hot rod and Ian's working on stuff, and people are to rebuild an engine now, even a V8 engine now. You might be looking at, if I custom built a V8 engine for one of you guys, it might be $10,000, and it's a Chevy 350 or whatever. It's nothing that's suitable for us. So I guess if we could, I went to Kubota because we're connected with the Kubota tractor dealers, and they donated a bunch of these engines that were damaged in warranty, and I kind of want to investigate based on the various sizes, and I got a bunch for free that might need repair, what possibly we could do with them. So to kind of further the discussion, I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to get my students this year, and our students come from all walks of life, and they learn how to fix agricultural equipment. They could go home and farm. They could also go to work in the ag equipment dealerships, and then from there they come back and they get into the apprenticeship program where they can become certified journey persons in whatever. So what I'm going to get them to do this year, just in sort of all the level 1 courses, we're going to use the example of the 503 Rotax, or we can look at your 580 liquid cooled, and we can come up with what horsepower the engine has when it goes through the gearbox. We have an increase in torque that drives the propeller. What is the propeller shape? We should be able to come up with some physical numbers, some actual numbers of okay, we can take that. We know that it's a prop drive. If we stick a different engine in that you come up with and say, what about this? We can come up with will it move the boat? Because my concern is, like, I know nothing about pushing a boat through the air harvesting rice. But if we know that those engines work, we should be able to do some calculations and come up with, maybe if we take a 30 horsepower diesel engine that's light, speed the prop up or whatever we have to do, maybe we end up with more torque, more power to push it through. But it also has to react like you guys are used to 2-strokes, where you pull on the throttle, it's like a chainsaw, right? Boom, you rev your engine up and away you go. So there's all these crazy things to consider.
The direct drive is, as you pull it, the prop turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the 503 has, they're 50 horsepower, I believe, when there's a single carb. And it's a twin carb, I think it's 53. 580 liquid is a little over 80 horsepower. And the direct drive has 4 bolts on the body itself. And the clutch drive has 8 bolts. So if you can get a body that has a 4 and 8 bolt system, you can put either one on
I
there.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not stuck.
Right.
If you have supposedly your clutch went on you, and you don't have no other thing except direct drive. But if you have a 4 bolt on your body, you can put that where the clutch drive was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the
that's
option
using
there.
that's using the factory Rotax gear drive box, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. before through Paul LaBay, I think, because we heard the concept of bagging, we heard the concept of having like a square tub in the middle of the boat to try to keep the center of gravity back there to keep the bow up.
Not too far back though towards the motor. It's got to be ahead of that. Because
Yeah.
we're looking at
Yeah.
organics now,
Yeah.
right? You see the organic, it's got to be ahead of the motor
Yeah,
where the rice is piled into.
okay,
So it can't go really close
Right.
to where you're sitting, right?
yeah.
Yeah. That's
And you want to keep the balance of the boat.
exactly.
properly.
Where's the
Exactly,
put rice in the
exactly.
back? To keep the boat up.
Yeah.
When you start having too much weight in the front, yeah.
But I'm just trying to, if there was a way to design it in such a way that you don't actually manually have to do
No,
those things.
you
that
can rig
there's-
that up, you said you can get a hydraulic diesel.
Yeah, so my mind was kind of
You get
going in a
little
bunch
bit
of different
motor with
directions.
with the
Yeah, so
auger in
we
there.
were thinking of an
That'll
auger.
move it
Yeah.
back for you, yeah.
A friend of mine repairs bakery equipment, and he's an industrial mechanic, so he's used to working in plant material, and I'm interested in what kind of low tech, low energy things we can have. We could have a silicone conveyor belt with like an electric windshield
Yeah,
wiper motor.
yeah.
Essentially, you push a button when your hopper gets full and auger it back, or
That would work.
I don't know what, like a low pressure hydraulic system where it would stall out if you held it with your hands, but it would still get the center of gravity.
But
And
you don't want, back to organic, but you don't want no gear oil or anything,
Yeah,
right,
some kind of thing to go involved with the rice.
right,
So you gotta be a way for it to stay away
An
from that
alternative.
if it's a.
Right.
You get electric
Seal.
motors that'll do that.
so we,
They're sealed units, yeah.
yeah, so we could do a couple things. We could use a soy-based oil product, right, that would
Okay.
not work in the
Yeah.
wintertime, and you're not
Yeah,
gonna use the
yeah,
boat in the
yeah.
wintertime anyway. But there is an organic style of a hydraulic fluid. It could be mineral oil, or if it works, and depending on what we do, if we have an engine that's got a little wee alternator, that might be a problem, but it's in lots of air to cool it.
Mhm.
You wouldn't use much power.
Yeah,
So we could come up with
as
something.
long as it's light,
Yeah, yeah,
that's the other thing,
exactly.
as long as it's
well,
light.
the diesel engine you were talking about, they run on that oil from restaurants, right, used.
Yeah, you could run them on, you could run them on biofuel.
It's gotta be organic.
Every restaurant give you.
I have worked at a fuel injection shop when people did that, and it makes lots of work for
Wasn't
the
there a
fuel
guy that
injection
traveled
shop.
through with a Jetta, a diesel engine Jetta, and that's what he was doing, is collecting oil at restaurants and putting it in his fuel
Yeah.
tank. He made it across Canada. So, yeah, that's an
The
alternative.
fuel we use for these road tax are premium. If you use regular unleaded, it's got ethanol in it, it'll blow your motor.
Yeah.
Premium don't have no ethanol.
Would it work better with plain fuel?
Huh?
Would it work better with plain fuel?
Airplane fuel?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can run the plain fuel with these
I
road tax. I don't know. We just use premium.
Premium work?
Yeah, because if it's regular, now it's got that ethanol in it. It's no good.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll blow your motor.
You could probably use aviation gas, but the difference is it's got a different octane rating. So then the mix of the
Yeah, the
fuel
octane, yeah,
will-
that's
is
the other thing.
is gonna be critical, and I can't remember the difference, like, it's when it burns, there's more oxygen in it, right, which is why you need that in an airplane, but
Nitrate or any.
I would like to know, like, when that fellow had the bagger set up, his beater bar or the header collection unit, how much of a drop did the wild rice have to come back down into the boat? You know, like, what did this scoop look like?
Because the bagger is kind of sweeping it in too, right? As it's coming in the chute,
Okay,
and he's bringing, and then there's a bag there.
Oh, I
There's
see.
the chute is round enough for a bag. You just place the bag there, then he's
oh, I see.
tie it up,
Okay,
bring another bag, same thing.
okay, okay.
Real quick.
When I was talking to Doug, when he had that outfit there with the bagger in the boat,
Yeah,
he said the only way to get the rice to come back is when he's turning, he lifted up the bucket.
okay,
Oh, okay, okay.
The gravity
Okay.
brought it back for him, yeah.
yeah.
So he's lifting the header up, or the popper up
Well,
by
you
pulling a
have, you have to
lever.
lift it up when you're making your turn anyway.
That's right,
do you?
exactly.
Yeah.
You do have to lift.
And that's
when you
because the
turn.
boat tips when you turn it a little
Yeah.
bit, and you don't want it to
Grab
dig in the
water,
water.
yeah.
Swamped a few times.
So then, do all the headers, or do all the hoppers on the boats, did they lift just like with a lever and a cable?
Cable, yeah, hand crank.
Oh, a hand crank, okay, okay.
You gotta be fast.
Some of them have winches too.
Yeah, I bet.
You're sinking otherwise.
So if you have a winch, is it fast enough?
I believe it is, yeah.
Winch, I think, is better.
I don't think.
We were curious what the rice is like when you bring it in. Like, is it dry or is it wet? Is it very heavy or?
Dry.
It's dry. Okay.
It's not dry. It's kind of moist because the water you're hitting from the screen goes with the rice a little bit. Not really wet, eh? Just enough, because you do have to water the rice when you get off before taking it away. See, that's the option there for you guys. When the first rice comes here, have a hose hooked up. This is back in the day. Bill, he was a plant manager at the time, and I gave these guys heads up on that. They didn't listen to me. This is what Bill used to do, because some of that rice in there is not quite ready. So, but if you put the water in it, you get the percentage on my rice. The best was 56%. And he didn't want to tell me how come. And because those other guys, well, I don't know why he didn't want to say, but later on, end of the year, he told me, yours was the best rice. Because of how we handled it in camp. And then as long as he gets it back into town, he puts the hose in there. Make sure the water comes out. One guy doing that all day. And that's what you can do here. You can get your rice your percentage of rice will get better. Yeah, recovery, exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's a shorter time for them to process. Like that's when we used to go with lily pad, remember?
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing with your rice? It's ready to process.
Yeah.
These guys are telling us, that it took so long for us to get the rice over there. We had water, or put it in a mush cake, let it drink.
Yeah, it's
But boy,
drinking.
she's heavy by the time you get it over there, every rice is full.
But we had no choice, Al,
Yeah.
because we had no place to put the rice. It was in the muskeg, so the weight is pushing it down to the water. Okay, so it's drinking right through.
Yeah.
By the time we hit the processing plant, it's ready for process. What are you guys doing with your rice?
Let's have to make sure you buy it before you water it.
That's where we're always pushing the producer to get more out of the rice, and so that would be a technique that is
Yeah.
Yes.
just
So-
to increase your product.
When you guys are talking about that, what is it? You harvest the rice and it's dry, and you bag it and you bring it on shore. When you put it in the water in the muskeg like that, it's just absorbing the water to make the kernel flatter?
We didn't do it intentionally. It just, we were
Yeah.
short on, the first time we got over there, they only gave us one airboat.
Yeah.
Next year, we need more airboats. They gave us another one. We still need more airboats, but they never did. So by that time when as long as we have we harvested the whole lake, plus the river, now we have to freight it. That's the one that was in the muskeg touching the water. Because we were kind of late on,
Right.
as long as it's in the bag, that's what I had told Albert. And we got bags and bags of rice right around the lake.
I think it's,
you have to worry about now is wet wild rice.
Oh, yeah.
When you're buying guys.
If it's dripping, it's no good.
Yeah, that's different.
I
You
think it
never
has to
see-
do, Chris, with the curing process. It's
Okay.
the science of curing, right? That's part of the research that needs to be done, because what's the ideal handling of rice once it leaves the harvester deck or whatever, right? And it's, so no, we tell people we ain't taking wet rice. It's just-
But the thing about that, Nat, if you don't water your rice that day after you harvest, it's gonna heat up. And you're gonna get moldy rice.
Yeah.
So you gotta put at least,
Coffee can.
about a coffee can.
Yeah, I think people do that, but
Yeah.
some of them,
Oh,
it's ridiculous. They
Yeah.
come there and you bring half of the river.
Right.
yeah.
At
But-
that
But
point,
they
are
wanna
they
get more
selling it by
money.
weight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they think, but I'm not interested.
Hey, bros.
Part of the lake is just.
Then he had this hopper, a bucket, and he had a chute built in to the boat. He put the screen in
They take a puncture, it goes down.
and put in here some.
Okay, so it's not like double line or anything.
But it needs
You have to figure out
figuring
the
out.
most part of that is when RPM
Well,
turns
it's
the prop rate.
Yeah.
But it's a direct mount to the crank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a circular. So that what you're talking about with the grain when it hits the bag, that's like when you harvest normal grain like wheat, and it's too hot and you put it in a bin and it cools down. It's gonna start to generate that heat, so people will blow air through it.
Yeah.
So maybe the water is cooling it down.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah. It cools it off.
Plus all the rice that fall into the bucket that's not quite developed, you put a little bit of water in there, it'll fill up.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
the
that's
other-
kind of what I wondered too.
That's
Like,
the other
like
thing.
the old farmers, I worked in a grain elevator for a little while, and I realized I hated that pretty quickly. But they would weigh their bushel of grain, and if it was light for the bushel of grain, of course, there was always conversations about, you got to watch Mr. Thompson over there because he'll put water in the grain truck when he's dumping the grain in there and bulk it up a little bit. But.
Well, everybody wins anyway. If you have the perfect formula, everybody wins if the recovery is at 57%.
56.
Yeah, we're hitting the max we hit, I think it was last year, about 47.
So can you explain that to us? Like, what does that mean? The recovery.
Say the bag has 55 pounds of rice, and recovery would be about 25 pounds of process, right, Nat?
Yeah, the easiest way I tell people is, oh, come on, Nap, you can pay us some more, it's $15 retail. I said, but if I pay you $2, it's like giving you 4. So what do you mean? Well, all the water, the moisture,
Oh,
the
yeah.
bag, the husk, everything else, the average recovery is about 43 to 45%. Last year,
Okay.
we were lucky we got 47.
Okay.
So
Because of the worm.
the average price for rice here last year was $2.20. So it's like $4.40 plus the transportation, the costs, everything, and everybody's thinking, geez. No, it's as soon as we pay you $1, it's like $2. So that's average recovery, just simply
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
explaining, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the recovery.
And once we get through these new airboats, once we start financing them, take their souls for it, it's gonna be even more, you know? I know Walter doesn't like that.
It kind of reminds me of the old Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
That's the concept they operated on. You owe me your soul. You have to bring out all your fur to me.
In our conversations about, you know, with Kevin and everybody else and Graham about how do we make a boat, you know, like I'm from Dry Gulch, Saskatchewan, right? So I have a canoe and I have kayaks and I don't know anything about making a boat. So I went to the sheet metal fabrication plant, which we had taken you to, and or the not the plant, just the program. And the guy that I know there I'd seen him building an aluminum boat, and he's from BC. I did not know this. He's from BC and loves building boats. And when I was picking his brain about what size of material, what thickness of material boats would be, how thick the bottom hull would be, you know, how do we figure a bunch of stuff out? He's just like, I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
we'll come up with something. So the kind of the general concept that we have is like not really like a prefab home, but if we come up with the design of the longer boat, maybe a version of a shorter boat, if we do this right with the aluminum and sort of like the CNC bending presses, we should be able to come up with like one half of a boat and another half of a boat, kind of in a boat shape, and maybe the bow is separate or something, and we should be able to, with enough pieces, come up with the shape of a hull. You know, we'll add the transom later probably, but we should be able to come up with a modular plan. So if we do at some point the program where we can come up with a way to build a boat, if you will, if we have the right components and stick it on there, then at least we'll have better hulls, and then by then we would have figured out what are we going to try for an engine that would be more economical or easier to change or something like that.
Yeah. So the hull, as long as it's 16-foot bottom, if you make it any shorter, 16 feet and up,
It doesn't
Longer,
matter how
'cause
big
if
of
it-
an engine you put on there, ain't gonna do you no good.
Exactly,
You probably noticed,
exactly.
Emil's boat.
Mm-hmm.
When you go, Emil's boats are sitting right by the shore of this place at Kenner River.
Okay.
You go there, you'll notice right away there's an extension of 2 feet.
Yeah, yeah, we,
So
so,
he, as soon as he bought the boats, he extended them 2 feet.
Oh,
yeah, I remember
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
to him
that's
about
why.
that. Yeah.
That's why, yeah.
And then Dennis Fable said, I couldn't extend it, so I put some extra bags of rice as soon as I harvest.
In the
If I
back.
go back, I get a few bags, I put them in the back, just to counter the.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This,
That's what I do.
that's the first thing you hear is the boat's too short, it pushes water.
Right.
That's in the end of it.
Another thing I like to bring up is the safety of these boats. They sink. You turn one corner, and if you get too much water in, you sink. I like that concept of the pontoon. Or somehow if you can close it up a bit, just to make sure they float, because you're out there, easily drown. A lot of people drown.
If a cable breaks,
Yeah.
or
He
you
flew,
get
my
away-
son flew, the cable busted, the thing went down, he went flying.
Oh, yeah.
It
I
happened
don't
to
get
me.
no around, he was the only one in the boat, how are you gonna save him? He was knocked
Oh,
out.
it happened to me,
Yes,
everybody was on shore, and I forgot to lift my,
he was a good man, they said.
There was a heated engine, there was a boat made in Louisiana,
Oh,
down
yeah?
across lake. It's a good thing the water was right up to here. Everybody thought I was dead, cause you couldn't see me underneath the machine, eh?
Mm.
I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, if you could make him a little safer, the flat
Yeah.
boats on
You
top
guys
of
are
the
lucky I didn't drown that day.
Yeah. We wouldn't have been here.
So,
And then the hopper, you don't want it more than 14 feet wide. After 14 feet, you're gonna have issues, especially when you're gonna harvest in the wind a little bit. You gotta harvest, or the wind's gonna take it all into the, it's gonna seed for you. So you wanna go out there. So the best one is 12 footers. So that way, the wind catches you a little bit, you can maneuver right away. You know what I mean? You feel it. And with a longer
Bucket, it's
hopper, you're gonna buckle your hopper, and you might go in a dunker too. Yeah, that's the thing about that. So they can be more than 14 feet. The safer.
90s. I guess 70s with a paddle and stick. You go 90s, how I got back with harvesters, nagito and Wally Prada. Magapilis ka naman piya ko, ano ko tiyati sige, around sa non-topping from Sigichu Lake, Sigichu River, Egg Lake, Big Stone Lake. Big Stone Lake piya, wasaw na miskin. Na miskin ano itya ka na sigayo sa igaw suot na gasto. Ano tao hinani ako, mani sasas nagigisi tatanda the racer. So, kipagat sa sumagaya, we were told to do it. So the following year, then he gave me that, ito magyabot kayan, Mercer Lake. Igot ta, bez narda no kutsipusian, go tayo na tuwas sa gami, igot sendan, pidisk Mercer River, go speed unega, go tayo camp, igot tawa na sa gyut na rice, mi got suma, at sigusita kami siya. Magaya, gusigi sa dekat, awasis pi, magigaya, munia with when Bell's Point is they had to. Yeah, that's Kitsaki Reserve. I went guiding there too.
Oh.
Yeah, Gutini guide when that's before. No, in between. I guided before harvest. Maganagi mo giego naga those Mackays. It's kind of awkward for me. Like right now, kuska kapahus ka ako mano chiki. Si magnupusen, and I gotta go do my water level. So I clear out the river, eh? So it was from last year's level, Barkuya last year, that last spring, it was 10 inches higher this spring. So the docks are kind of floating. Go be this one nagaskuhan, and we're down to a little over 9 inches nagaskuhan. Kiga to last year's level, that's sasabihin na mga gimwa, puti sasabihin na, matamalit mistake tupado, ni piano mo dito imiste utihti pipa do itugi tansi tugi po gose pigaya ti ko taman digi wawanahi ko na mari nigi Nigiguan saw muhat na those beaver damang mudi kam stay. Usita maga anos tago ako taga ka mo sibuhtian gutay ahaya gamiskog. Goguti ga tago sinyan kano abat man those beaver lodges. Giabas na uchiha naman stay hati nan. Their feed, their beaver head uchiha naman stay hati in tree. Kiabchi aguti Itsumituga matonchi umida chis. Iwat hito ni pahatan na Hammerson. Tamaga that ugutamutsin pigi wago and tagogutsin with the trapper from Besnard. Nigigogito ka nigimi nito. Gutwacha mi sits mudigo mustay wanigi, eh? So there's lots of otters too. You need to mi stihat the beavers. So Tinigo 5, my 5th trip, that's Piega miskawap mag, which with a guy go, tanong which a camp guy, that's where the rapids, pawish to go cinema. Ko tami naman nagigipago sige okay, gipaha ko, magigo modad iagana po guski tagut semi tago men modad sige to namis so magan sa nigi usi tano soy hosita. Muda sa dagan chikis pag but osita osoy liver is the kidneys and the heart. Yun din naman now. Wala nang kosista da. Mana maga piya kaya yago is noit sig mana. Kasko ho tito taka namat kita ka bagisiyan. Ego no simag mina to pigi haog to pega no skinny is going to be 7 next month. Maga kape man no tito kape me doy tay gas kuibitsigi. So yago ido me doy de tamaga sa seta aswa poitan sita kamegisian. Kape si sit kawa pasta ho ego do kiskidita mog. Tan sumita kamega, okay? So yago ido sa set wapahtam. At an early stage, they learn that. Yeah, when they see you doing it. Ano man os kaba mo pia kispin gitis padega if it works the way we discussed there, it is in the right, it's in the right trail, it's in the right, it's in the right of looking ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, back in the day, like Pareto Lake, maganites ni the Black Bear, so that's where my trap line is. My parents were there. They taught me how to trap and hunt and all that when I was young, eh? So right here in Larange, the one I was telling you about, my grandparents are Pareto Lake, where we did the wild rice with those canoe and sticks. We have, they have trapper meetings in the fall, and some resource officers, they do explain things to help you, but they're not all like that. But there was one there in that meeting like that, and he had told me that to talk to my cousin in Pareto Lake, you should get some cabins on the shore of this lake, or there's going to be people moving in. But in those days, the trappers looked at another person differently, like they're going to take that spot, they're going to, that's what entered their mind, but that wasn't the case. That's not how it was supposed to be, but that's what they thought. Now, you go to Pareto Lake, you see a bunch of cabins. If there was 2 cabins of natives, there wouldn't be no white people there. But now there is. So I think that's what you're talking about. And like Besnar Lake, there is quite a few white people there kind of settling in, but they call it cottages, but sometimes during in the winter they still come up, so I imagine they're insulated, eh? Gotta be if they come up in the winter. Yeah. It seems like it's going to be like what I just said, it's in the right right of the future for the people, and if it keeps up, I imagine it's going to work till whenever, until things keep going. Like back in the day, like when my grandfather and them were there, we were getting, just by hand stick, we're getting, I imagine it was, I forget, $1 a pound, and that was in the 70s. That's lots of money. One bag was quite a bit of money, and then the prices just went down, 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 and now they finally come back up, and it took a while. My brother David Rat, he went to the States with the Prada, Cas Prada. He went, and that's how they figured out this plant that's in Larange. That was from them. He knows everything about a processing plant. Whatever you want to know, he'll tell you how to go right from when they pick it up off the ground right into the plant until it's finished. He'll tell you the whole thing. He knows all that. No, there's no way. You got to get it to the plant. That's how when I was in a company there, the first time I got to Mercer Lake, that's the same thing we did. We had to load up into the plane, which was easier. That was the company. And now it's through the portage, through the boat, to the truck. Lots of lifting. But the young guys, I find they like working and whatnot, that's the other thing. You got to find people that like to work. Yeah.
And COVID has definitely messed things up, but it's kind of nice to be coming out the other end, and we appreciate the invitation to come up. And very much the hospitality yesterday. Joe is a heck of a tour guide. Prime pontoon boat, we went for a nice ride, we were fed very well, so it was appreciated. In terms of Sask Poly, Paul was the one that got this going, and unfortunately Paul has been routed into another role within the institution, but he deserves a lot of credit for getting this going. The discussions, though, we actually have found a little money, and it's nice to be able to get started that way. So we've got some money, a third, basically towards a training program to find out what you need and see what we can do to support you in terms of your existing fleet. And to work that way, and a lot of the credit for that goes to Daniel, between Dumont Technical and he was the one who approached Northlands, he and Brett. So there's some money here to get started. Knapp's comment that Ian promised he always had money, what Ian promises we will always try and find money. There's a difference. But that literally is what the research office does. I mean, Ian always says that what we do is tell stories and chase money. And so we're chasing money towards sort of what we see as the second part of this process, which is to start trying to come up with some ideas for a design based on what you tell us, and to see what we can eventually come up with. Actually, next Monday, we're supposed to find out about that grant application. So that will be one step forward. We've already got another grant application going in for funding for the same purpose, and found another place we can probably apply to for that purpose as well. So sooner or later, we're going to find some money. You bang on enough doors, somebody eventually will have it. And so that's the process we're continuing as well. But initially, I think for all of us, it's to find out what you need to tell us so that hopefully we can provide something that's useful for you, both in terms of training, but also in terms of a long-term plan on what you want to see for equipment to go forward with, and to find out if there's ways we can contribute to that. So that's very much kind of what we see this day as, is the start to learn. More than anything, we came to listen and see what you want to tell us about what you need to go forward with. So appreciate the invitation, and we're looking forward to the conversation.
So yeah, again, my name is Daniel with Dumont Technical Institute. We've been working in the Northwest for 40 years now as an institution. We've tried our best to always accommodate individual community need. Food security across the board is a huge issue for DTI, especially our students. It's one thing to be able to walk to a 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning to grab something. It's another to be able to help a community prosper. One of the biggest things that we like to do is training that actually leads to something, not training just for the sake of training, but training that benefits individuals and benefits communities. So we've put aside money this year, the next year, however, whenever this actually comes on, to actually do a repair and maintenance program for you guys, or a fabrication, design and fabrication. We are not much in the way of design. I can use MS Paint on computer and stuff like that. Like I am not that person, but when it comes to actual fabrication, we can look at doing things like fabricating jigs in Saskatoon or wherever to bring up here to have people, you know, actually fabricate boats, and we can actually do it as a program, or we can look at something, bringing up some individuals that are adept at, you know, aircraft maintenance and avionics and that sort of thing, to do a repair and maintenance program with you guys. So in the end, we're not going to tell you guys what you want. We'll just listen as well and deliver. So again, Northlands, I don't know if they're going to be an active participant in this. What DTI and Northlands like to do is to leverage each other's money. So if we have $100,000, $150,000, they'll always kick in equals, because they don't want to be less than or more than type of thing, and they get to claim stats, we can claim stats, we deliver, they deliver in this area, so it works out. And there's other entities that we can get involved in things, but that's what we're here for. So again, nothing needs to be decided in our world today. It's not like we need to make a decision at the end of the day where money's gone. Money will be there for you guys, and it will be, what you want for repair and maintenance, which a lot of you are much more experts at than we are. So I don't know how much we can do on that, or fabrication and design. So
The hookup, eh? You gotta have that airborne. If you don't, you're gonna be pushing the water, and you're not gonna have no air. You won't be able to pick rice no more.
So I'm Chris. I'm the guy that met Emil in a bunch of these conversations, and we convinced him to bring a boat down. And the story is, he shows up in November with his boat in a snowstorm, and we're standing out there, and it's COVID, and we're having a conversation about, tell me all about what you know about harvesting wild rice.
Yeah.
And I'll just listen. And parked right behind the boat was one of the grain harvesting combines, and I was really surprised at how similar the issues are of harvesting. Totally different way of harvesting, of course, because combines don't float very well. But the issue of harvesting the grain was the same. So it kind of got me hooked on, this is the problem solving stuff that we do. I'm an ag mechanic by trade. I worked in ag dealerships for 15 or 18 years before I started working at Sask Polytech. And then I got into a fuel injection business. And then I'm a motorhead because I love everything with a motor on it. And then I love fabricating stuff. So when I got talking to Emil about this, and know that applied research kind of involves problem solving, I was hooked just about after the second sentence that Emil said, these things are all beat up and we need to replace them. So we talked a lot about stuff, and I see your sketch, and really what we want to do is like everybody's saying, I got a spreadsheet, and I don't want to spook people out, but I just have some information. I want to talk to every producer here, and I want to write down what you're telling me about what your conditions are like, what engines, how much gas do you burn, just general stuff, so we can make a long list of all the stuff that are issues to you guys. And then when we go back and we look at sketches and we look at pictures of bagging, of all sorts of stuff like that, to me, what I said to Knapp one time is, like, we want to make a modern Model T of a wild boat harvester, the race harvester, that we can drag anywhere and you can fix relatively easily, and not come up with some crazy thing that in 10 years you can't get parts for.
Yeah.
Right? So for me in the ag business, we're really aware of that. When you can't get parts for something, I gotta tell NAP you need a new $500,000 combine. Well, we want these things to be able to live longer and live as long as some of the ones that are started out there. So I think what we really need to do is work on the bridge program as far as getting all the maintenance concerns. And if it's a matter of us trying to find where we can get parts from, and maybe we can harness some energy somewhere in the SAS Polytech world of saying, where do we source these parts from? And maybe, little rubbers like this, like if they're not good quality, but if you can still get them,
Yeah.
and they last for a year, that's better than not getting them at all.
This will last 5 years,
Right.
5 and over. But that's a Rotax.
Yeah,
Rotax product.
So I think there's different things we can do. And you talked about props and stuff, and when we were doing this proposal, I did a lot of searching about airboats, and I phoned a lot of people in the States, and they were nice people to talk to. They're like, I understand your problem with airboats. They have great big engines on theirs too, but they have all sorts of different sizes. And we can get carbon fiber props with 2 blades, 3 blades, and they can be variable pitch, so we can make them fit different size bolt configurations. And I guess we'll figure out the maintenance thing, and we'll figure out what you folks really want to put in that maintenance package, as far as maybe is it, some electrical, some welding, whatever it is you guys want.
Yes.
We can put in that package and try to figure out the maintenance issues with the engines. Like you were saying, a replacement block is $3,000. My mind leads to, like, in the end, we need to come up with a boat that's got a totally different engine that is acceptable to you folks, that does what it's supposed to do, and can be replaced and repaired separately.
As long as the boat's got an 18-foot bottom, 16 to 18-foot bottom, if it's any shorter than that, like Watnam got nice looking boats, real nice, and 25,000 they're asking to 30,000. But some people are using them, and they've only got an 8-foot bottom, and it's got a pitch about 4 feet. Now you put a bag of rice into that bucket, you're already pushing water. You can't pick up no more rice. You're seeding. It's not going in your bucket. It's seeding. So that's a wrong design for an 8-foot. It's got to be, the bottom's got to be at least 16 to 18 feet long in order for it to be a good harvester.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I want to capture in this, just my jot notes basically, right? And then I think what the plan is to do, Graham is the design guru. I'm calling you that anyway, Graham. It's what you are. So what our plan is to take information from you guys, and I brought a tape measure to my camera just so I could go over it, and I saw you jotting stuff down. I thought, this is what we need to see.
Yeah.
So if we can do all this and figure out the angle of the front of the boat and what are your must-haves and stuff, then we can kind of work on. Not only can we do the maintenance part of it, because that's fairly easy to pull together, we can work on the concept of what is acceptable to you folks, because I think all of us agree that we don't want to make anything that you drag it up and you go like, that is a piece of junk, right? We want to make it so that you can stick it in your truck and drive it wherever you got to drive it.
The thing about a 503 Rotax, it's a fan cool. It's not liquid like a 580. A 503 is a little lighter boat, like Al's. You can go anywhere and you can move it around easier. Put it that way. But a bigger boat, it's going to be harder, heavier.
Mm-hmm.
So you want it to be placed there. You don't want to move it around. Leave it in that lake. With a flat bottom, you're hitting whatever is right. It's coming in the bucket, and the one that's not right will stay on. So you get to hit the rice 5 to 6 times with a flat boat. Can a pontoon do that? Can a pontoon boat do that? See, because it ripens from the top, so the green is down there and it stays on. It won't. The flat boat won't hurt it, not unless if you're about say 3 to 4 inch depth of water. Yeah, maybe you're going to hurt it there because you're squishing it down to the.
Doesn't damage the stems?
Possible. That can possibly happen. Have the motor off, and you can put it back on because the boat itself won't be as heavy. And if you can put a quad in there, before when I was in Mercer, they didn't give us no equipment, the company. We had to push the boats ourselves over the portage by hand. And we have to have the motor running, put a tape on the throttle so it's running, and then we're pushing at the same time, going uphill a little bit. And then we had to take the boats back at end of the year. That's what the company wanted. So we had to do this and that. And then I talked to Doug Horner. Oh, man, they're making you work lots. Yeah, but that's the contract they write down. We can't do nothing. And he just said, hang on until it's going to change. It's going to change on you. Now it's been changing. He was right.
They're building planes now with electric motors. Oh yeah. There's a lot of things. You go on YouTube and take a look at all these things that they're coming up with. Like there's these hovering motorbikes now that you can look at. Like, it's got four. It's like these drones, except they're larger. And so those are the sort of things that perhaps need to be considered in the situation. And the only reason why I'm saying this as well is that the potential for jeopardizing your lake, if you have a spill of gas or oil, then we're talking about organic. Like it took us a long time in Northwest communities to get certified organic. Now all it's going to take is one major spill in a lake that can damage our reputation as an organic growing Northern Saskatchewan wild rice. So that's the sort of thing to consider as well for, when you're talking about designing. Is there some other way? I understand you guys handle your gas and whatever very carefully for obvious reasons, but that's something that
When
I'm just throwing it out.
we were going to that course of organic, as long as you have a tub in your gas tank, okay? And then make sure you put the fuel in the shoreline, not in the boat.
Yeah.
You got to try to make sure. So you have two tanks. One is empty. You hook up the other one. No spillage.
Right.
And now you got one empty one. And where you're dropping off the rice, that's where you leave your spare gas and then off a ways, but not right where you go a little ways and that's where you pour it.
Yeah.
And there's hardly any spillage either because you don't want to lose gas. Especially price of gas now, eh? You don't want it out you want it in the tank. Yeah. That's the organic certification they had given us when we were going through, say about 15 years ago or something. Yeah, that came about.
That's interesting because that's like forestry products, right? On a servicing a piece of forestry equipment, you have to make sure you don't have any spillage of oil or whatever on the ground, and there's different connectors and stuff. I guess when we talk about different things in here, what people's ideas are, like if when we got looking at what the 580 Rotax does in the gearbox and the things to replace, the one thing about the 580 Rotax and the gearbox is you can take it off and stick it back on there. There's no alignment because the gearbox is all attached and the prop's there.
Yeah.
The interesting part for me is like if we want to lower the center of gravity in a boat, and in my mind I thought, well, we could look at some different kind of a 4-stroke engine in the bottom of the boat with a belt drive. You can buy these belt drives and they're all in one kind of a steel frame, and the good part about that is that you could take it off and put it back on without disrupting the alignment of those belts, and the engine would bolt onto the side of it, right? So there is ways we can do that.
The thing about the 580, it is a little easier on gas because you don't have to put it 3/4 to full throttle. Only a quarter throttle, eh?
Right.
Just enough to make that rice hit the beater bar. That's it. Don't want to hit any harder. If you hit any harder, you break the rice. Where's the rice? Right. You're not going to get it. It's gone. You got to save your rice. That's the other thing about organic, the company we were working with. And we try to explain to them, we want the bag in the rice. Why are we going to hurt our own rice? And they keep telling us, you got to do this. Well, you told us already the last meeting. We want the rice in a bag, not in the lake, or broken.
Thanks, Walter.
Okay, you're welcome.
When you guys were talking about pontoon boats, I understand the flat bottom boat will press the rice down, and you're gonna shell out the rice that's ripe, and it'll end up in the bucket or whatever you want to call it. Is it the understanding that if we use a pontoon boat, there's too many do the pontoons hit the rice as it's going through? Is that what we're talking about? And then the potential of shelling the rice out and damaging the stalk occurs because it's pushing the pontoons through the standing rice?
See, Reese had pontoon boats, and he used it on his big lakes. And there's only a way you can harvest with that. You gotta do the turns of the rice you already hit. Don't do a turn the one that you didn't hit yet, or you're gonna be seeding.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
that's the.
Okay, so it
that's
is
the-
partly that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's partly that. That's
Okay.
that's a big thing.
Okay.
Because you want the rice in the bag, not in back in the water. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just explore that further? So I don't quite understand. You're saying don't do the turns on the one that you haven't harvested yet. So you mean literally don't turn the boat through
Do
rice?
do a turn on the one already you hit. Even these five whatever these little boats, you gotta harvest the same way. If there's a bay, right?
Yeah.
You wanna work out. You don't wanna work in, because if you work in, you're gonna be blowing the rice back into the water.
The thing about the pontoon boat, it takes about 10 acres to take the turn.
Well,
Oh yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah, the turns. You
we
got
were trying to think of that. It's like with an airboat, and you can see the vanes turn in the back. We know that they're going to turn sharp, and I couldn't quite figure out what is it like to drive a pontoon boat. What do the pontoons look like? Oh, okay. Okay.
That's the thing about that
What is
exactly.
the shape of the bottom of the pontoon thing?
Well, there's one outside.
Okay.
Bruce bought a pontoon boat, and basically, Chris, I'll send you this wonderful GoPro stuff I got out of Dennis. His grandkid,
Excellent.
all these shots, and he'll show you all the workings of the pontoon, the size of the hopper, the hitting of the bar, all that stuff is on here. I didn't get a chance to see them all, but I know it's a region, and our equipment is getting more obsolete. People are just trying to figure out where to find pieces and ragtag stuff to keep things together. And some people are making the effort to redesign and build and fabricate things. But people, we used to say, the people that used to do this in the old days, they're all getting older, they're retired. The people that used to make props, people used to make props all the time out of PA, I think there's a shop. And the people that used to fabricate boats, they retired or they passed away or they were no longer in the business. And we found ourselves over the last little while, we knew that the last 3 harvest seasons that people always had issues with their equipment, breaking down, had to stop, start. I know Bruce had issues last fall, like he had huge crop last year. It was one of the rare places that was a crop that was huge, and he kept on breaking down. And
That's the guy that talked.
Now you just have, you guys weld these up, you just got your ladder, you got your brace to support everything up.
Yeah, you gotta stabilize it.
Okay.
The only thing is when you're working on the motor,